So, I never thought growing up that I would ever become a mom. I'd never be married. I always thought boys are never going to pay any attention to me. Who would want to fall in love with a girl that has a disability and can't do things like every other girl? But that all changed. I went to college and traveled the world and did all kinds of amazing things. I went to Europe for 4 months. Yeah, 3 months, 3 or 4 months.
Can you hear okay?
Yeah. Can you guys
just
hear
a
me?
little louder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to Europe for 3 or 4 months, traveled the world, did all that, graduated college, came back and knew that I didn't want to live in my small town because the people that were accountants were going to be accountants till they retired. The people that were doctors were going to be doctors till and there just wasn't any jobs. So I decided I was going to move to Des Moines. And that ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. And when I was there, it was really hard for me to make friends because I didn't grow up there. And so you'd go out and I'd ask my coworkers, how do you meet friends? And I would ask my friends from college, how do you meet friends in a place where you don't have any friends? And they would say, oh, we'll go to the bars. Well, I'm not a girl at bars. And not that I didn't like the bars, but it wasn't something that I was going to do. And I didn't want to meet a guy at the bar because how do I know that he's not going to be a guy that wants to go to the bar all the time? And I'm not like that. So then someone suggested going online. And it was funny because my mom had just mentioned that someone that she knew, their daughter was getting married to a man that she had met online, and she just thought that was the most ridiculous, crazy idea she had ever heard of. And I was like, okay. But I was like, yeah, I'll do it anyway. So after a few random dates and guys that don't call you back for whatever reason, even though you give them their number and you think you're having a good time, I got a message from this guy named August. And he reached out to me, and at that point, after like 3 or 4 dates, I was like, okay, I'm done dating. I don't want to date guys anymore. And he happens to be my husband now in 11 years, so that didn't go very well, did it? Yeah, and so I met him, and we started talking, ended up finding out we worked at the same company, Wells Fargo, because everybody works at Wells Fargo, right? And we emailed back and forth a few times through work, and then we decided to meet at, I think it was Granite City that we met for the first time, yeah. And so then we met for dinner. I was like, oh, okay, this guy's a nice guy, and he knows that I'm disabled, and he still wants to hang out with me again. So we, and then I told him, I was like, I only want to be friends because I don't want to date and stuff because guys are dumb. Basically, isn't that pretty much what I said? So I was like, yeah, I'm done dating and I don't want to date, and so there's no pressure on anybody. I just want to be friends. So we were friends for, I don't know, we met in September. In December, so it was like October, November. I remember my mom coming down with her friend to go shopping because you go shopping in Des Moines because there's all kinds of places to shop, and there's no shopping in Algona. And so my mom and her friend came down, and she comes over, and he's helping me clean my apartment. My mom's like, you have a friend that helps you clean your apartment? What kind of friend helps you clean your apartment? I'm like, I don't know, we're just friends. I went home for Christmas, and right before that, I think it was my birthday, and he bought me earrings, diamond earrings. And I went home and I showed him, and my mom's like, where'd you get those earrings? I'm like, from that guy you met in my apartment. She's like, I thought you were just friends. I'm like, well, not really anymore. And so yeah, we dated for 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. In the meantime, after a few years of dating, he asked me if I wanted to move in with him, and I was like, I don't know, because I thought I came from a background where you had to get married and then you moved in together and all that stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if my parents are going to be okay with this. I called my mom and I was like, so August wants me to move in with him. She's like, okay. I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, what? Okay. She's like, yeah. I was like, okay. And it wasn't even just moving in, it was we wanted to buy a house. And she's like, okay. So we bought a townhome together and back up to like college. When I would go to my doctor's appointments with my gynecologist, he told me that I could only get pregnant using fertility drugs. No, that's not the case. Found that out. We got married. We dated for 3 years. Then he proposed. Then we got married in 2007. And we had my daughter in 2010. My first daughter, Emily. And being a mom is, it kind of was similar to what people had told me it was going to be like, but I knew that for me it was going to be different just because I'm not able-bodied like they are. And so I found that out even just during my pregnancy. Everybody talks about they have to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes. No, literally, I had to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes because the baby's pushing on your bladder. Yeah. And then I get to about, 6, 7 months pregnant, and I can't really walk anymore. And, you guys know, it's hard to walk, but I was like, I can't do this. So I talked to my gynecologist, and she prescribed a wheelchair for me. So I was in a wheelchair for the last 2 or 3 months of my pregnancy. And then I went to the doctor on a Friday. And I was like, and she was talking to me, and I was like, okay, so what's the deal with, like, the epidural and all that? She's like, can you have an epidural? I was like, I don't know. I've never had a baby before. I have no idea. She's like, well, how about you talk to the anesthesiologist on Monday, call the anesthesiologist and talk to them. On Saturday, we were at a restaurant, Tasty Tacos, and I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I was like, oh. And he's like, what's that? And I'm like, I don't know. And he had told me the day before that I had had bladder infection. So I was like, oh, it's probably just my bladder acting up or whatever. So we finished, and I had a couple more of those pains, and we went home. And about 8 o'clock at night, they were getting closer and closer and closer. He's like, are you sure these are just bladder spasms? I'm like, maybe not. So we went to the hospital, and they told us that I needed to walk around for an hour. And I was like, wait a minute, I haven't walked in 3 months, and now you want me to walk around for an hour? And so I was like, yeah, I'm not going to walk around for an hour. And the nurse was like, well, if you're really in labor, you will still dilate. So he ended up pushing me around the hospital. We looked out the windows, we looked at pictures and all this, and just wasted an hour. And we went back, and they examined me, and I was at 10 or whatever you have to be to have the baby. And we were like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to become parents. And I was due on the 15th, and this was June 6th. And so it was earlier than I expected, but I was going to be a mom. And they didn't do an epidural. And I was looking at the clock thinking of all these people that had told me they had like 27-hour labors and like 10-hour labors. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to go through this for 12 hours in this much pain. Are you kidding me? And he said they gave you pain pills through your IV, and I was like, I don't care what they said, this still hurts. And he probably remembers the squeezing of his hand and how much that probably hurt, but I got through it, had my baby, and you don't realize, and so like fast forward a few years later, it's fine when you have a little baby that's not mobile. When the baby grows up and they're 18 months, 2, 3, and they start running away from you, and you can't chase after that child. You can't pick up that child. You can't carry around that child like everybody else can. And you just feel like, was this a bad decision? Should I have not done this? am I cut out for this? Can I really do this? He had to tell me a lot that I was good enough and I could do this and we could get through it. And now my daughter tells me all the time I'm the best mom in the world. My son tells me, Mommy, I love you. And it's those moments that it's like, okay, I can do this. And my daughter is now 7.5, she'll be 8 in June. And I feel like she sees the world through my eyes. Like, she notices curbs now that probably a 7-year-old would not notice that there's a curb there. They just walk over it. She notices that there's a curb there. Mommy's going to need help walking over it because there's not a railing or something. She knows when my son runs away, like he just did before we got here. He decided to jet off and like run 4 houses down, and I can yell, but he's 3. He's not going to listen to me. A 3-year-old listens to their parents, right? So my daughter goes and runs after him. And so it's times like that when I feel horrible as a mom because my child shouldn't have to go through that. But then she turns around and tells me I'm the best mom in the world. So obviously that doesn't bother her on the level that it bothers me. And yeah, it's a challenge. And you have parents stare at you and care providers stare at you and you think to yourself, okay, are they, and I don't know if they're staring at me, but it's just the feeling that you get that they're staring at you and they're going, why on earth did you have kids if you can't take care of them? And it's like, I can take care of these kids. It's just, it looks different to me than it does to you. And I'll get through it and we'll get through it. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Thanks, Molly. And now Rhonda Brown is going to tell her story.
Well, I titled this Dating and